Welcome to Bald Move Pulp, the officially unofficial home for our Loki coverage. Aaron, we're here today to talk about Season 2, Episode 1, Ouroboros. New season, new Loki, new timeline. How you feeling?
I was scared, because we came off Ahsoka, which kind of started off okay and then got really strong and then kind of just really kicked us in the crotch on the way out. And I'm like, at least I got Loki to look forward to because we really liked Loki. That was I think that's the shining jewel of honestly all the D+. The Andor and Loki. Each side of the mouse house has got one shining jewel. And then, my North Star in terms of television criticism is Alan Sepinwall. And he blistered this thing. He says this is
Really?
a not fun season. It's drugged down by technobabble and this and that. And I don't know, maybe we'll see some of these cracks showing up in the weeks to come. But I was scared going into my screening last night, and I watched it, and I was delighted. It was funny. It was gorgeous to look at. I don't have a problem with the techno babble. I'm an old school Star Trek fan. You get the Ouroboros talking about the time stream, and how do I know he's wrong? I've been working those pneumatic time tubes for 500 years. This guy has. So as long as they remember what they're saying and they don't contradict themselves at a later date, I don't give a fuck how many flux capacitors or sonic plungers or time looms are involved. And it was just so funny. I thought that was the point. The technobabble being laid on thick was funny, as just seeing how glazed over these are very important things, and Owen Wilson's in this enormous Michelin Man suit, just eyes glazed over with all this shit that
Worrying
Short
about
Round's
his
telling
skin,
him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ke Huy Quan, who was delightful. Again,
Yes.
watching this guy, he's got this gear and he's got the James Bond gear he kind of hit for a scene or two, and it's just so much fun. It was just so much fun. I got everything I wanted out of this. I was worried that we wouldn't get a lot of One Mi Masaku, because she was in one scene of the trailer I saw, but she's very well integrated. It does feel like I was worried about how they would establish what's going on with Loki trying to explain it, but that was neatly dodged. Not enough Sylvie, but that's just the first episode.
Yeah.
I liked it. I really liked it. How about you?
Yeah, I'm with you. I had a blast with this episode. The techno babble. Look, I'm a Star Trek fan. Techno babble doesn't bother me that much. If it's in purpose of something else, and in this case, it was in the pursuit of comedy. I thought above everything else, you can say this episode looks gorgeous. It sounds great. It's well acted, but it's very funny. I found every joke that they went for landed. Mobius, we've seen his brand of humor, and it still works this season. Ke Huy Quan, getting him in here, I thought was amazing. And the interactions between them, the way he's just so laissez-faire about the possible fate of losing all of Owen Wilson's skin, I think is amazing. The whole skin thing, the skin thing tickled me like nothing else in this episode.
Him writing skin ? In the dust on the side of the monitor. So funny.
Dude, I love that stuff. I thought top to bottom this was super entertaining. Here's the one thing that slightly worried me.
Okay.
It seems like they're going to collapse this back down to one timeline. And one of the things I was really looking forward to this season is for it to get weird with time, with timelines and branches and multiverses. I'm a little worried that it's not going to get as weird as I wanted it to.
Why do you think they're going to collapse? Because I don't think that at all. Why do you think they're going to collapse it to one timeline?
Well, they've pulled Loki out of the time stream, so now he is just definitively in this timeline again. He's not jumping around, right? I'm
not uncontrollably. He could still have a time, one of those, what do they call the time?
You could go through a time door, that kind of stuff. Sure. There are definitely avenues for them to get there, but when they started off, they had Loki jumping through time in kind of uncontrollable ways, and I'm like, oh, this could be interesting with the multiverse and the He Who Remains. Now maybe She Who Remains. I'm not certain what the status is there, but And then they
He
pulled
who
that
is
back
remains at this point.
Maybe, yeah, perhaps. So I don't know. That's just like the most minor of worries, because I'm sure they have something up their sleeve and they're going to mess with the timelines. It's just they shut one of those doors and I was like, oh, I expected that door to remain open.
Yeah, and what I thought was the funniest and the neatest, the niftiest performance from Ke Huy Quan was his realization in real time that things are happening to him in the past. Like, I don't have one of those. Oh, wait. Yeah, I actually do. And just the way he just plays that totally straight, and like, and all the way that Loki kind of like enjoyed needling Mobius for, like, you know, obviously he's trying to go in here smooth, like, oh yeah, buddy, you know, like they're good friends when they've only met once on accident, and Loki's like, yeah, tell us about the time. I thought that was, because usually it's the other way around, you know, like Mobius is blowing his spot up about some kind of shady thing he's skiing. It's like very low stakes, but just funny, just the easygoing chemistry, the comedic timing that they all have, and I expect that from, like, you know, Owen Wilson, and because he's done a lot of comedy work. But it's always a pleasure to see people like Tom Hiddleston be able to, you know, do a complex kind of physical humor, verbal wordplay, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's very good at that stuff too. The physicality of Tom Hiddleston is amazing. Like the one of the things that struck me, and it's such a simple thing, is when they're walking down this hallway, and Ke Huy Quan has this book that's something about the manual for the extractor or something, and he tosses it back to him. And Hiddleston, it's like kind of out of his reach, but he just kind of uses his long ass 6'5" arms or whatever he is to reach over, grab it. And yeah, I don't know how many times they did that where he missed the book, but it looks really, his physicality is really good.
Yeah. I like that scene too. They must have expunged all the incidents in the timeline where he missed the book.
Yeah,
but,
totally.
It's just stuff like that's just like throwaway. It's not like that wasn't a big thing that like everybody laughed. It was just that's the thing. I consistently had a smile on my face throughout this episode.
And they're doing some interesting things with what comes next, right? Like B-15 goes over to where they're sort of prepping to catch Sylvie, I guess, but there's way more equipment and way more soldiers going through than she thinks there needs to be. So what are they actually doing? Are they, are there infinite Sylvies now? There are a lot of questions around that, and I'm excited about that.
And they're led by an especially severe-looking Kate Dickie, which is saying something.
Yes.
As General... What was her name? General Maud? General...
Dox, I think.
Dox, yes. General Dox. I thought that was great, too. Like Lisa Aaron. With another fucked-up son relationship, maybe?
I don't know what this... This is the only guy with his name on his gloves. Did you see that? X5 is...
Yeah, X5. Was it X5 or B... Is he X5 or B5? I thought it was B5. Is it X5?
I think he's X5.
Oh.
Maybe I'm wrong about that.
I probably just wrote down B5 because all the other hunters are B something or other. But
he might be a special class of hunter.
Yeah, because like there's some special relationship, but I thought that like one me doing that like ew kind of icky thing was kind of nice. Hey, I mean, I respect Alan Sepinwall a lot, and he's, I think, probably seen the entire series, if not everything but the finale. So it still gives me pause for him to be like, I gave a negative review of the series, but this first episode has given me no cause for pause.
Yeah, same here. All right, let's get into the recap then.
Yep.
Let's talk about the intro first, because I was just wondering something. Do you think they'll change this Marvel intro once they start recasting some of the heroes? Or is this going to be like a historical document? Because I noticed, Robert Downey Jr. is still in there, and they haven't recast Iron Man, but like...
But they definitely have added, like, you'll see occasionally Simu Liu will be there, and I kind of hope
the new Marvels is in there too, so like they're adding to it. It might be historical.
I kind of hope that they like. I think as you continue to grow, that you can't have like Chris Evans and Robert Downey and Chris Hemsworth and everyone, but it'd be nice to have at least one or two of them. Like throw in ScarJo, throw in, you know,
maybe in movies where they appear, right, or shows where they appear.
or no, or even if they don't, just like just like throw like like Captain America. Chris Evans as Captain America is important to the MCU. Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man is important to the MCU, and I would like to always see at least one tribute to the classic era, the Phase 1 era. But like maybe that's the thing, is like you have to make sure you have a representation of every phase. That would be kind of cool. But yeah, I would hate it to be just like the last year's worth of Marvel movies. That would suck.
Let's get Lou Ferrigno in there.
There you go.
Yeah.
They get the Italian Spider-Man.
Hell yeah. All right, let's start off with Loki. He is running from Mobius and the TVA security. No one knows who he is in this timeline, and he's able to evade security, and then he's transported to another timeline where people do know him. Fortunately, he's transported away again. He's hopping back and forth.
Why is Casey so funny?
I don't know.
I think it's his total absence of neck, even though he looks like a guy who should have a neck.
Okay.
You know, sometimes like you see like every human being has a neck, but like sometimes you'll see those strongmen, you know, the guys that like play the mountain on game, and they don't have a neck because it's buried under 18 inches of slabs of muscle. This guy looks like he's got that going on, except for he's got the physique of your average, you know, Office Depot employee. And it's just fun. And I think they're doing it with costuming, or maybe he's doing it, but it's like
his facial expression.
It's definitely the performance, but part of the performance is he just looks funny. He's constructed funny.
He's bringing a lot of Good Place energy with him for me. Like
there you go.
Because I bring a lot of baggage with that character.
Wait, was he in The Good Place?
Yeah, isn't he like Donkey Doug's dad or something? I forget who he is. He's related to.
Oh no. Okay, yeah. All right. I thought you were just in a generic, like he's like one of the lesser angels, or he's
no.
And I'm like, because yeah, he's got that kind of like, not simple, not naive, but kind of in that, like, you know, in that area.
He's a lot dumber in Good Place, but he's bringing that kind of Good Place face with
I mean,
him.
he feels pretty dumb in this. He feels pretty dumb in this, Casey. But I just think every time he showed up, it was just pure comedy.
I really like this mail cart scene, and the implication that this mail cart driver just dies in this scene. Loki crashes the cart in through the window, hops out, and the cart falls, and this lady dies.
Yeah, I like that the TVA is ran like a James Bond villain headquarters, where it's like there are massive OSHA violations, people might scream and die, but it's like treated with the same seriousness of like a copy machine jam, or like someone microwave fish in the in the microwave. Like it's not oh my god, stop everything, call the cops, and we need to get grief cat. It's just like yeah, you might get ground up in the time stream here. You might get spaghettified.
Is this a new TVA logo? I don't remember the old TVA logo. Did they integrate some new stuff for the new He Who Remains timeline?
It seemed like it was the same. But we talked about the comic timing here. Like, you know, Tom Hiddleston, like his pratfalls and his, you know, the way the truck slowly fell off the window and the way the ball smelled. Like, all that stuff is just really funny. And it wouldn't surprise me if they like manipulated frames in the editing to get it like, is this funnier? Is it funnier if it's like a half second later? Because it just, yeah, there's many times when I was on my rewatch, I was like, wow, why is this working as well as it is?
Yeah, it's because the actors and writers are extremely talented. I think that the stuff they're doing with the logo is really just to set up the crack later that tells you that he's in the future,
jump.
Right?
Yeah, because there's three periods of time I believe we're seeing: a past, a present, and then a future. Or
yeah, it's like a micro future.
Or maybe that's the last bit of the past. Like there's an idea that there was a cataclysmic thing that happened to the TVA and it got reset into the post Kang time keepers, you know, fiction era.
Maybe.
Maybe that's what it is. Now that I think about it.
I don't know. But yeah, that crack he made in the past is still there in the what I'm going to call the sacred timeline. It's slightly different, right? Because the sacred timeline in the previous one
Was just one
didn't
time
have it didn't have like the Jonathan Majors influence, or maybe it did. I don't know. He prunes the wall at some point. It's revealed that he's kind of been behind it all along, which we knew.
Yeah.
But they didn't know.
And yeah, he was behind. I think it was him and Miss Minutes running the TVA, or Miss Minutes was running the TVA, and probably Judge Renslayer, because that recording that they have of Kang, talking about like sharing the power with her, and almost made it seem like they're like a king queen type of situation.
Yeah, I'm curious to see that stuff with all the hunters and Docs going after. An Infinite Sylvie's. It could be going after Renslayer because she's doing stuff. So because we know she just kind of like bounced into a different timeline at the end of last season. But we'll get there. So I'm going to call this all the sacred timeline. So we're back in the sacred timeline. B-15 says they should tell everyone the truth about the TVA. Morbius isn't sure they're ready for that info, and Casey claims that Loki was just here, but no one's really seen him other than Casey. The X5 tells Mobius that he's wanted before the Judges Council, and B-15 goes with him. And Loki appears again looking for Mobius.
What is this X5? What's he getting at with the jet ski stuff?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the jet ski was... So I forget exactly what happened with that, but I know that is part of Mobius's former life, right? He was way into jet skis. Before he was pruned and made, before he was, and
he always had that vestigial, like, I think jet skis are cool. Like, like I've heard of jet skis somehow, but I just, the way X5 was like parading this around is more like, he had this, the one thing I didn't quite understand is he had this whole era of like, I am in the height of the Red Scare. I'm one of McCarthy's interns, and I'm here to turn your shit over for wrong think, right?
That's what you're feeling from that.
That's what I felt. Or was he just taunting him?
It felt like taunting to me. It felt like, oh, I know about your past, ha ha ha.
I felt like an internal affairs Gestapo routine kind
of. Or maybe it's taunting him because they don't really believe him, like, oh, yeah, you're the jet ski guy, right? That's your former life. And maybe...
Right.
Yeah, maybe it's a thing where like, oh, that's stupid. Yeah. We're not variants. Yeah. But I don't know. Anyway, the guy who pruned Mobius last season apologizes to him. And then they enter the Judges' Council chambers. Loki tries to follow, but he's in a different timeline. So he ends up in an empty room. And he hears this
recording. It's the same war room. It's just this is the one with all the Kangs on the wall.
Yeah. Same judge council room. I don't know. He hears this recording from He Who Remains, which is thanking Renslayer for being on his side. And things get interesting. Yeah, so Renslayer... I don't remember her exact status. I know that by the end of the season, she... kind of reveals that she had known more than the rest of them. So here it's kind of made clear that they were working together. It wasn't just
at one point, but I don't know that that knowledge was intact. Because like I think they're trying to tell a story of there was a TVA like 1.0 that Kang was personally running, or maybe it was a Council of Kang situation, because it's not just a one Kang face, it's like 5. And that some major catastrophe
like he was the timekeepers, maybe.
TVA. Yeah, and some catastrophe befell the TVA, and then they rolled out TVA 2.0 that only the one Kang, He Who Remains, is the master of, and he put in some kind of level of invisible management, with Renslayer and Miss Minutes and the timekeepers.
Timekeepers.
Yeah. It's not clear to me how much Renslayer knows of that, but clearly in the 1.0 or whatever the proto version of the TVA, he praises her leadership skills. thanks her for joining the team. Like it's a like she volunteered for it.
Yeah.
And he says, for all time, but he throws the phrase for us. Like this was something special between those two.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's definitely possible. There have been multiple versions of this. That would make sense.
And they're going to go back to explore Kang's past, it looks like, from what we saw in the preview materials.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
I don't know what to make, because like this, a big thing. The other thing is I wonder about Alan Sepinwall's review is like he seems like he had a hard time separating, the Jonathan Majors allegations versus the material, which I get it. I looked in because like I guess the definitive article is written by Rolling Stones, and I read that this morning, and I just want to deal with this once, and we don't have to talk about it for the rest of the season unless something new comes to light. But there is a criminal case against Jonathan Majors. It's my understanding that the person that accused him has had like counter charges filed against her, and she's fled the country. And the thing is like, man, for my North Star for like these accusations of abuse and stuff, it's like if the one comes up, you always can have a crazy person that says crazy things. The second, like, multiple allegations start coming forward, and you have multiple people saying no, this, that, and people can start corroborating and verifying it, it's a really bad sign. And Jonathan Majors, in my mind, is in this situation where it's like there's been one person that's come forward and accused, and then there's this article by Rolling Stones that cites 41 anonymous sources. And I'm like, but they're from all, like, there's people from back in his college days. There's people from, like, his professional, for personal. They're all anonymous, which that kind of bothers me, but that's a lot of allegations. And to be fair, it's like, it's not like it's some abuse, but it's also just, like, kind of being, I guess, bad, like, maniacal. And I guess that's what I don't know. It's like, if we're going to, if he choked some woman, obviously, that's a huge problem. But a lot of the stuff that people are alleging is like he yelled at me on set. He said I wasn't taking this as seriously, and he got angry and in my face about it. And I'm like, you would cancel half of Hollywood if that was the bar, from what I can tell, because all these people seem crazy to me.
I mean,
yeah, that's true.
People lose their tempers all the time.
If in a 15 years, so like I'm trying, like I definitely, think that we should be trying to make the world a better place, Hollywood included. Maybe Hollywood especially, the fucking talk that they talk about, being better people, right? Maybe they should take the lead in showing us what that's like. But I don't know. I would like, I guess we'll wait to see. And that's the thing is like Disney. That's the interesting thing. Disney is obviously going all in that he's going to be cleared of all these charges, and there's actually no problem going forward. Man, that's a hard one to parse.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it for sure. If it's just like getting angry, losing his temper on set, and yelling at somebody, I don't care about that.
Some of that stuff happens, sounds but very like yeah.
If it's actual abuse, yeah, that's bad. I couldn't support that.
So I don't know. It's a shame that there's a cloud hanging over the production, and I think it's going to until like this stuff either gets he gets acquitted or goes away or what. But man, Disney is, I think they had a unique chance to like he was killed, and there's a multiverse, and something could go wrong in the multiverse, and now the Kangs look different. They had that opportunity, but now it's like this is Kang. They are committing to it. It's interesting choice. High risk choice.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. And it seems like they're staking, the next phase on it. It's not just going to be the next season of Loki, right? So,
yeah. Kang is that's their Thanos. It seems like for this phase.
All right. Well, let's go to Mobius and B15 explaining to the judges and the general here what they learned about the TVA and why they stopped pruning, and B15 makes a plea not to go back to pruning those branches for that reason. The judge agrees, and then Loki shows up. He prunes the wall, which I didn't even realize you could do, and it reveals the face of He Who Remains, and the general tells X5 to find Sylvie because she's the reason for this mess. Big assumption.
The other thing that seemed like Alan had a problem with is he fundamentally threw up his hands and couldn't believe that this organization who was devoted to time pruning would, in a sudden change of heart, reverse that course of action. But when I saw this scene, number one, like, I don't think it's fair to say the TVA is of one mind. Like,
Sure.
You've got two powerful figures. You've got Judge Gamble and General Dox. General Dox is taking what appears to be a private army and doing her own thing. Like, she tells her, I think, son, that, like, the timekeepers are fake, but their warnings were real, and, like, nothing's changed for them. So it's like, I don't even understand the idea that, like, oh, this whole organization has changed on a turn of bat. But the other thing is, like, there's pretty fucking compelling evidence. They had the head of a timekeeper on the table. Loki just revealed that in your own war room, there is a false facade that hides the fact that this Kang guy was in there. Like, I know we're all used to people just ignoring fucking evidence before them and doing whatever the hell they want, but, like, it's also acceptable to see evidence and change, like, oh my God, what if we are committing atrocities?
The very least, it should give you pause, if not change your mind immediately.
And I really like that idea, too, because I think there's, like, that's a challenge we've had a lot in the 20th and probably going forward in the 21st century. The idea that, like, you as a member of a society or a culture or an institution or a country have done heinous things that you might not have realized was heinous at the time. And what do? Like, do you, like, clutch to, like, the mission, and you, even though you see now it's abhorrent, you just continue to do it and double down like General Dox? Or do you find the personal courage to be like, yeah, I guess, man, we're gonna have to deal with all the shit that we've done, but the first thing we got to do is stop doing bad right now, like Judge Gamble. Yeah. And I thought it was interesting that, like, the physically frailest member of the council is the one that showed the moral conviction and bravery to, like, okay, we're going to stop pruning until we figure all this stuff out. And the militant, powerful general is the one that's like, fuck this, we're keeping on. I thought that was really, really interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Who is the third dude? Who's the third judge that's asleep in the proceedings?
I don't know. I mean, he just stays asleep the whole time, so he never interacts with anybody.
I feel like there's a Simpsons episode where at the end of the thing, there's this Yakuza clan that comes to do battle with. Oh, right. Homer had got an infestation of mafia goons, and somehow, like, he got this the Yakuzas the battle them, and they're having this, like, gunfight / martial arts thing on his front yard. And there's this little guy, like, literally a little person, like a little Asian guy in, like, a ice cream suit, just standing on the side of the yard looking at everything. And Marge tries to get him, pull his eyes away from this crazy gangster on Yakuza action. He's like, oh, Marge, you know that little guy, when he finally pops off, it's going to be so cool. And he has to, and as soon as he turns his back, you hear just like, like, bodies go flying. And he's like, you missed it. This guy sleeping's got to be a big deal, right? Like, you don't have a dude sleeping in the middle of the war council while the world is ending if he's not going to do something really funny or cool in the future, right?
I wonder if he just has all the answers. Like, he's the guy who's actually been around long enough to know, oh, yeah, we've been working with Kang for ages. There was the 1.0 version of the TVA, but he's just missing all the
This, like, happens every couple thousand years, and, he's just sleeping through it. I don't know. It's Chekhov's snorer.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It was a little weird seeing him there because the shot kind of opens on him, and I'm like, oh, all right.
And then we saw there's something to General Dox and X5. Yeah, they have a special relationship of sorts. It feels mother son. And if that's the case, then they don't cast Kate Dickie in that role for nothing. Like, Kate Dickie has had a long career. She's played a lot of interesting characters, but she is most well known for being a fucked up mom.
Yeah,
on Game of Thrones and The Witch. So,
yeah, clearly he's special to her for some reason.
Keep your eyes on that.
All right, Loki tells Mobius about their journey to the end of time, and he says that Sylvie's still there, and war is on its way in the form of infinite He Who Remains. Mobius asks where he came from. Loki says, TVA in the past, which Mobius claims is impossible because time doesn't work that way here. So he wants to consult Miss Minutes, but Loki says, nope, she's working with He Who Remains. So instead, he's going to take him to repairs and advancement.
God, this
is
scene.
The comedy, man.
So,
this is it, from
so
here
funny.
to the end of the episode. The comedy does not stop. When Loki's trying to explain, like, here's what happened, and Mobius is like, oh, so you lost, and he's like, well, it was a draw.
Uh-huh.
and he's like, oh, it was a draw. You both kicked each other through time doors simultaneously.
That when it's funny is this like Loki's just given this breathless account of what happens, and like that's what derails him.
Every
so
time.
she beat you. Oh no, like he's like drawing it, and then him saying like when he's getting. Well, I kept on calling it in my notes splinched because it looks a lot like what when you. Yeah, in Harry Potter, when an apparition goes bad, they say you got splinched.
Okay. It's a reference.
Like, Loki's getting splinched all over the place here. And, like, he's like, well, does it look, because he's like, does it hurt? And he's like, it's fine. And he's like, well, does it look bad? And he's like, I don't. And he finally confesses, like, yeah, it looks like you're being bored and you're dying at the same time. And, And also,
they cut over to that girl in the elevator, which just cracked me up.
The intern standing in the corner the whole time for this conversation fucking sent me. And also, like, the idea that, like, what is bad for Loki? Loki has been throttled by the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
His frame of reference for pain is a little bit different from all of ours.
I'm pretty sure he's been hit by Thor's hammer. Like, he's taken a beating.
Yeah, he's taken a shot or two. So,
and then the other ways, like just the little comments that Owen Wilson is getting in here as he's describing this. Oh, you kicked each other through time doors simultaneously, and Loki's like trying to cover it. He's talking about I wasn't trying to fight her, and he's like, look, Renslayer kicked me down some steps too. I get it. It's like just
the Owen Wilson he's doing it the whole. It's like he's also putting that kind of part of the performance in it the whole time, and it's delight. The other thing I liked is like Loki kind of like going back over the moral decision that Sylvie made for them. That like from his mind and from mine too. It's like there isn't. It's not an easy choice. Like the devil you know versus a million devils you don't.
Yeah.
And we're seeing evidence even in this episode that the time before the He Who Remains was a bad time. Because that Sylvie's whole philosophy is, well, he's lying. This is another control mechanism. Starting to see evidence that no, there's some real devastation. Now, maybe there is a third path of less devastation, but I don't think He Who Remains behind is lying about the essential problem with the Kangs.
No, in a lot of cases, the villain lying about something would be the most interesting option. I think it's exactly the opposite here. The villain telling the truth is beyond imagination as far as how bad it is for the world. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what comes of that. And then Loki gets introduced to Ouroboros, which is played by Ke Huy Quan. Ke Huy Quan. His name is not easy for me to say. He is familiar with this time slipping, but he can't fix it. So then Loki slips back into the past and starts working with the past version of Ouroboros to give future Ouroboros everything he needs to stop Loki's time slipping. And we find out that Mobius needs to get the temporal aura extractor to the temporal loom to extract Loki from the timeline at the same time that he prunes himself. And that will permanently anchor him in this timeline.
We didn't mention another part of the comedy is like all that dialogue that we were talking about was delivered in like this epic Aaron Sorkin style walk and talk, except for the walking is happening through progressively more demented sections of the T. Like you're just like he's just taking him on these long elevators, these long corridors, this like more and more derelict and bowely and basementy looking part of the TVA until they arrive at Ouroboros' lair. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, this is just really funny. Like Loki fucking with Mobius about the discomfort of him needing information from this guy who is also relentlessly cheerful and upbeat, even though it's like, he's like Milton from The Office, except for he doesn't know enough to be offended by it or feel a certain way about it. Like, oh, this is my friend that stumbled upon me accidentally 500 years from now and never went back and bothered to go back and visit me again.
Yeah, well, time doesn't work the same way. Maybe 400 years there is the blink of an eye, right? Maybe that's like, a bathroom break in a typical office.
And this is how cheerful he is about it's not possible to time slip in the TVA. And then Loki does it right in front of him. And Woden's like, Morbius is like, he just did it right now. Do you believe? And he's like, yes, I'm having trouble reconciling that. Yeah. And him doing that in multiple different timelines simultaneously it's just really funny. It's all the comedy,
a well-constructed
the timing.
Scene.
Very well, very well.
Repairs and advancement. What about this particular job or place strikes you as a repairs and advancement department?
It seems like people send him these little bits of metal, and then he hammers them back into shape and sends them back. And they also hint that he might be, aside from Kang and Renslayer, one of the founding members, because he intimates that he created the time loom, that he wrote the instruction manual. Mm-hmm. He might have been one of the earliest recruits. He seems like a pretty brilliant guy.
The advancement part of it might be ironic because he talks about how he's been here for 400 years completely alone, and the last visitor he had was Mobius 400 years ago. So, like,
which was the accidental, yeah.
Yeah, the advancement part might be a little ironic.
But I think that the idea is that he's capable of it. It's just that their mission has been static, and maybe it used to, because like he's also talking about redoing the loom in real time to handle multiple. That'd be an advancement, right? So he's been mostly repair since Kang, He Who Remains, took over. Is what again? None of this is canon. This is just what I'm putting together from what they're telling me.
Yeah, and I think repairs and advancement is just meant to be, kind of a funny name for this department, but we'll see if it's important. He also hasn't been able to sleep for 400 years. He says, if I sleep, the work orders just kind of start piling up, so I don't sleep. Yeah, he's got that kind of energy.
Mm-hmm.
A power surge happens, and Obi, who I'm going to now call Ouroboros Obi, he's really bothered by it. They all head for the temporal loom, with B-15 joining them on their way. Obi claims the temporal loom is being overloaded by all of the unpruned timeline branches, and they'll have to close the blast doors while he tries to retrofit it to handle all of them. But first, they need to get Loki out of the time stream. And it has to be done before they close the blast doors, otherwise they'll be lost to time forever. And Mobius will lose all of his skin, more importantly.
And Loki will be spaghettified.
Yeah, but Mobius will lose all of his skin. That's the better part to me. Like, for some reason, I'm with Mobius here. There's a worse fate than being spaghettified, and it's losing all of your skin.
Because Loki's like, will you be alive? He's like, what's your quality of life with that skin? I like the warning, because I paused it when they're going into the big red door, and the big red door is framed by every international warning sign you've ever seen, and probably a bunch invented for this show. Mm-hmm. And then there's big font at the bottom that like is leading up to it that says, temporal radiation levels escalate exponentially beyond this threshold. Likelihood of spaghettification increases 7,000%. Which I thought was hilarious. Like 7,000%, really? It's 7,000%. It's just really funny.
Yeah, and the term spaghettification is pretty amazing.
I love scientists. They come up with the idea that the gravity towards the event horizon of a black hole is, so we're used to the smooth gradient of gravity coming out from a planet, like, where it just gets, it's the inverse law, just halves off. The gravity's so fucking strong that the tidal forces between like your head and your feet, and the fact that you're going faster and faster but slower and slower, that you will just be stretched to infinity. You will never fall into the black hole. It will take you. You will see the heat death of the universe proceed around you as you slowly are stretched out. That's spaghettification. A scientist like described that process as like, it's like a pasta maker.
You can see the universe dying, but no one can see you dying because you're in the black hole being spaghettified. That's kind of amazing too.
The subatomic particle spins are like up, down, left, right, blue, green, happy, sad. I mean, it's like the theoretical scientists just go wild. They go wild with their
Ragu and
terminology,
Prego.
naming things. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. You get linguinified.
Uh-huh. No, it's amazing. And man, so here's the problem I'm going to have all season, I'm sure, is in the recaps, because with all the time jumps and all the ways that they're playing with the different times, it's really hard to recap any one of these scenes because 3 different scenes are happening at the same time.
Mm-hmm. In 3 different timelines.
What are you going to do? I'm just going to try and do my best.
Presumably they've watched the episode. This isn't
Yeah.
like The Walking Dead where people are relying on us to convey what's happening, so
I don't think so.
that'll help.
A lot, yeah. So B-15 goes to help track down Sylvie, and then the boys get into some trouble. Loki jumps forward in time to the point that Mobius is already suited up, ready to go outside, and he goes out and he launches this extractor as Loki is like frantically searching for this time stick to prune himself.
He's lost, yeah.
And then he hears the phone ringing, and he follows it over to an elevator where he sees Sylvie, and then gets pruned from behind.
Is it from behind? I got the distinct impression Sylvie pruned him.
You think Sylvie came there and pruned him?
It
Maybe.
came right to his chest. Why did you say it's from behind?
Because you... So the way
Did he
I
turn
viewed
around?
it... No, the way
Was
I
he-
viewed it is as he's disappearing, you don't see the pruning stick until he starts dematerializing, and then it shows up. So that, to me, says it was from behind. But it
I
could be
thought
an
that-
infinite number of Sylvies, right? It could still be Sylvie.
All right, well, that's like I said, I have to rewatch because I thought for sure it came from, but you're right. I guess if I wasn't paying attention and I saw that sticking out and it was just dissolving from the energy effect, it might have come from behind. But I assumed it was
from behind.
Sylvie.
I could be wrong.
Sylvie found, and she's like somehow aware because she's the master of time now, and she's kind of helping him.
That would definitely make
But-
sense, too.
But that's also, I think we're seeing the end. Yeah, what the hell is she doing there? Because like, if I thought this is like towards the end of the TVA 1.0 timeline, like building is being destroyed. Is that the consequences
That
of what she
could
did
be
to He
right.
Who Remains Behind?
I don't know, man. I mean, she knows
obviously,
everything
that's
now,
the-
right? Like, so she could
I
know
don't
that
know.
pruning Loki... Well, yeah, I mean, I'm assuming, right? If she
killed-
is He Who Remains...
She killed He Who Remains, we think, and that's the
Uh-huh.
only thing we can say for sure. And it fucked up the timeline. It fucked up the timeline from the TVA's perspective.
You're right. I'm making a ton of assumptions about her assuming his position and now being kind of the She
And that's
Who
the other
Remains.
thing. We haven't talked about this, but like, he puts out a good point that like the worst thing that could possibly happen to the TVA, which is all these timelines not getting pruned, has happened, and yet nothing obviously is bad other than the fact that the loom is not handled to equip, the state. But like, if you modify the loom, maybe things are fine. Maybe they've been lied to this whole time, etc.
Perhaps. Or perhaps it's going to be exactly like he said and end up with, another war, and he just ends up back where he is, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So, I don't know. We'll see. So Obi is able to... Well, he closes the blast doors, and Loki's not back yet, but he's pulled out of the time stream just before they close, and he kind of launches at Mobius, and they both kind of skid to a stop inside the blast doors.
Can we talk about how delightful the design of Owen Wilson's suit is?
Please.
It's as funny as the suits from last season of For All Mankind were, the Helios suits, but even more so. Like, there's just something really funny about little Owen Wilson's face in this enormous big hero number 6 outfit. And then when he walks past and he's attached to this like 3-foot diameter dryer hose. It's just really funny. This like, and especially since behind him you can see another rad suit and it looks completely normal.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
It's like a completely and like the idea is like, did he get the like giant fat rotund suit out that's meant for MODOK, the big head guy? Or did they just get inflated to that size because of whatever weird time shit that they have to do?
I don't know, man. You know what it reminds me of? It's the Mondo aliens from the Fifth Element. Those like walking turtle looking things.
Yeah.
Because it's that big and round. And then the thing that cracked me up was that dryer hose attachment. It's like 3 feet in diameter.
So big. It's so big and so bulky and inconvenient. And also, like when OB is giving him the final warning, he's like, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. And Owen Wilson's like eyes are like crossing over, and he's like barely understanding. And then he's like, but the suit's going to age away, and if it ages away completely, then your skeel's going to pin away, then you're going to get old, and you're going to die. And Owen Wilson's processing, and then he notices this giant crack in his helmet. He's like, wait a second, is this faceplate cracked? And Obi just slaps duct tape on it, and then like slaps him on the ass and says, get out there. Oh man, like I said, I was rolling this whole episode.
Yeah,
and I gotta say, the time loom is gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful piece of filmmaking. And like when he was going in there and like the time waves are blasting particles off of him, and it was kind of like as pretty as I've seen in like, it was like late game Annihilation.
Okay.
I mean, not nearly that terrifying, but like in terms of like how beautiful it was, it's just, man, there's something like golden yet rainbow about the light. I love how it's like twisting and kind of turning like as a living thing. Just really cool.
Mm-hmm. And the way it's like splashing onto his suit and aging parts of it as it hits. And like, it was a really well realized, well visualized scene.
Yeah.
And then the final scene of the episode proper, B-15 sees how much hardware and personnel that Dox is summoning to go after Sylvie and doesn't buy it. She's like, something else is going on here.
Yeah.
And this is the big kicking the doors open questions that I have. Like, if you're gonna shrink Loki down to one timeline, I like that they kick this door open.
I'm very curious about like what does General Dox know? Does she have some kind of contingency plan given to her by He Who Remains in case, timeline, like, is she preparing to fight the Kangs? Is this all overabundance caution of dealing with Sylvie? Like, I'm really
Is it dealing with
myself.
something that Renslayer's out there doing? Because she's still out there monkeying around. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll find out more about that next time.
Yep.
There is a post-credits sequence here, in case anybody was wondering.
Oh, shit. Really?
Uh-huh. You didn't see
You
this?
caught the post-credit sequence? Oh, the post-credit sequence on episode 1 was not on my radar, dude.
Wow,
not on
okay.
my radar.
Well,
Did
go
they
back
do
and
this
watch
all the
it.
time last season too?
I feel like they did.
Yeah, so I didn't have a post-credit sequence on after episode 1, season 2 on my bingo card, but through the magic of podcast editing, I did check out this post-credit scene. She appears in a random field in Oklahoma in 1982 and walks to a nearby McDonald's, looks around and sees everybody enjoying peak 80s American life.
Back when chicken nuggets were new.
Back when chicken nuggets were new, when they had the McD and they kept the hot side hot and the cold side cold with the magic of foam containers. And she says, I want to try everything. Mm-hmm. I don't know. What's that? That implies to me like that she thinks of her job, that this to me reads like Thanos going to his planet after the snap and like enjoying, like she thinks that she's freed the timeline, and she's now going to enjoy her hard-won freedom. And little does she know.
To me, it reads a lot like Kang acted last season when he suddenly didn't know everything that was going to happen when he hit that threshold. Just saying, like, I want to try everything, to me says there's a whole new world of experience that wasn't open to me before. Now it is. Let's do this.
Yeah, I agree.
So is it possible that she has experienced, eons of time like He Who Remains had, and given up that position just now here in 1982?
I guess it's possible. I don't think it's much different. I mean, I guess in the thousands of years, because like my My initial reaction is, yeah, she just walked through the time door from the end of time after killing Kang and is now like, I've done it. I can enjoy the spoils of war.
That could be it for sure.
Wait till she tries Szechuan sauce. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Gotta wait for Milan to come out though. That's it for the Loki podcast.
I think so. Yeah.
We have feedback at the end of every podcast, but we are doing a hurry up offense on Loki. The only way we could really cover it, since we don't get screeners from Disney, is to essentially cover it the next day. So not a lot of time for feedback to build up. But if you'd like to send us feedback for the second show on this one, or your predictions, any Easter eggs that we missed, I understand this whole 1982 reference is to some kind of famous Thor storyline. You want to clue us into any of that stuff, Marvel at baldmove.com. Otherwise, we'll see you next week to see if Loki can keep the fun times going. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to find out what else we're doing right now, we just got finished with Ahsoka. We're looking to start a bunch of different things. Actually, we're kind of a little unsettled. We're considering doing Fargo, For All Mankind. There's True Detective coming up in the new year. Killers of the Flower Moon later next week. Tons of stuff we're doing all the time. Follow everything that we do on our social medias at BaldMove everywhere except for TikTok. We're at BaldestMove there. And if you want to start the Loki season right, get ad-free feeds and tons of bonus footage. We're going to be doing an Off the Clock show, a bonus podcast next week about the new Caitlin Dever alien invasion movie. No one will save you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about the Wes Anderson short films that they're doing on Netflix. You get all that and more at support.baldmove.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Until then, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Jim.
Later.